we've just got to be clear what it is we are actually counting in the amount that we're trying to reduce. And then we need to decide how we'll meet the targets that we're setting, and that means reviewing our functions as a local authority. So every local authority has different functions. I'm sure you know within local government you have the district council, which effectively is a two-tier authority with the county council. You have unitary authorities like West Berkshire, you have your London boroughs, you have your county councils, and so on. There's all sorts of different types of authorities. But you've got to look at whatever your functions are and determine in each area what is the carbon footprint of that area, and then what are we going to do to get those emissions down. And of course they will be different in all the different areas. We've got to set up monitoring arrangements. This isn't a short sprint, this is a long-term, it's a marathon, not a sprint. We're talking about at least 10, 11, 12 years here. And Rome wasn't built in a day, but we are building Rome. That's the way that I tend to look at it. So set up monitoring, so we look at how we're doing and so on. Embark on a comms strategy, that's really important. We've got to let the public know what we're doing, how we're doing on it, whether we're keeping up with the targets we've set ourselves. If not, why not? What are the challenges and difficulties and so on. Put in place provisions to report on progress, and how often should those be, and how do we do that? And of course we've all sorts of channels with social media and goodness knows what else that's already in place in a local authority, so I feel we need to use those to make sure we get the message out there. And the reason I say that is I think it's imperative, because there's this concern about climate change more widely in the community. We've got to make sure we take people with us in whatever it is we're doing. And of course we've got to find some brass. There's no point in saying we're going to do all this work if every time we then go to members and say we want to do something, they say sorry, there's no money. So we've got to find some money for funding as well. So local authorities have different roles to play in the governance of an area, and those allow them to exert influence. What sort of roles have we got? Well, firstly there's the obvious one, the council's own estate, its own buildings, its own assets, whatever it is, depots, vehicles and so on. It's got all of those, it controls that area and therefore can come up with plans. And secondly, the local authority by law is the community leader. It's the only democratically elected authority at the local level, and the idea that the council is the body that guides others to take action and decides where we as a community ought to be going. Leading by example is slightly different, of course, because that's us doing something in pursuance of our community leadership role. Then there's the regulatory role. We heard quite a bit about that this morning, particularly in relation to town and country planning. I also wrote a guide for APSE last year on the Merton rule, which is about requiring new buildings to be built to higher standards of energy efficiency and renewable energy than the building regulations. Again, there's a lot of uncertainty about this area. Actually, you can do it. A lot of people will tell you can't do it. I'll tell you now, legally, you can do it for a variety of reasons. I won't tell you now, but I will if you come up to me afterwards and ask me. And it's all to do with Eric Pickles and his ministerial statement. But it effectively said that the government was going to bring in a law, and it didn't bring that law in. So code level 4 of the Code for Sustainable Homes is 19% above building regulations. Bath and North East Somerset has a level of 25% above building regs. But we also heard from Tom Heeks this morning when he was talking about the new standards that are coming out. The government is planning to take away the power for local authorities to set those standards locally and say because they're upgrading building regs to make it higher standards, then you don't need to be able to do it locally. But standards aren't going up high enough or quick enough in building regs for us to be satisfied with that. So there's some issues there that we'll be watching to see how that goes. Right, let's move on to renewable energy then. The big areas in tackling climate change and emissions are transport, as we excellently heard in the last session, buildings and heating, and electricity generation. So I want to say a little bit about those. And under the EU Renewable Energy Directive, we're quite well ahead as a country in relation to electricity generation, largely because of the boom in solar farms and wind farms and so on. But we're well behind target on both transport and heating, and those are becoming particularly urgent. Now, I don't think anyone's mentioned this so far, but I think it's important to start with the absolute basics. And the basic hierarchy of energy is this. It's 3 steps and it's linear. Step 1, use less energy. Turn off your lights, turn down your heating, your computers and so on. The reason that's step 1 is because it's the easiest to achieve and it's the biggest bang for your buck. It costs you virtually nothing, it saves you money, nobody loses their job. It's a really good starting point. But many of the local authorities I work with do not have an energy reduction strategy. So when I was in Cornwall, that massive authority, used £10 million worth of electricity a year, 140,000 megawatt hours of electricity every single year in Cornwall. I developed a plan for them to become energy self-sufficient, to generate it all from their own assets. So they said, oh, that means we've got to make 140,000 megawatt hours of electricity. No, we've got to get 140,000 down to 100,000 and then get the renewable energy to make that. Energy reduction, step 1. Step 2, improve your energy efficiency. If you have to use energy, squeeze as much as you possibly can out of it. Insulation of lofts, floors and walls, improved heating, avoiding wastage, that sort of thing. It's the second most cost effective. The reason it's not as cost effective as useless energy is you have to pay something for energy efficiency, but nonetheless it's very good. The trouble is it's boring. Energy, talking about insulation in lofts, nobody's bothered about insulation. It's boring. Let's talk about wind turbines and solar panels. That's much more exciting. But it's an important second step in the hierarchy. The third step, find new sources of renewable energy. It's actually the least cost effective of the 3 because it costs more than energy efficiency, which costs more than use less energy. But everyone goes straight to renewables. So what we do is, that's why I say it's a linear progression. We start with step 1, then step 2, step 3. But actually, you could say it's circular. The reason I say that is this. If I work with a local authority, like I'm working with Lancaster City Council at the moment, putting solar panels on a leisure centre, so they say, right, we want, whatever it is, 200 kilowatts of solar panels on this leisure centre. But then you say, but how much energy does this leisure centre use? And what's its profile of energy use? And then you get them interested in that and say, well, okay, could we reduce that first? Or could we match the solar panels to make all of your use? So you see what I mean about it being circular. It doesn't matter to me whether you start at step 1, 2 or 3. I'll get you around all the steps eventually because they are intrinsically linked together. Now, for buildings, the aim should be fabric first. What that means is there is no point in putting renewable bling on a leaky old building that costs a fortune to run because its heating system is rubbish and the windows are falling out and all the rest of it. Fabric first, again, means do the most cost-effective things, and that means making sure that the insulation of the walls, etc., is right. So it's not all about the local authority, so I want to give you a personal example. And this is my very brief case study. It's the old Ford's cottage in Leeds. You might say, why are we doing this? Well, the answer is because I live there. And essentially, this was an old cottage. I bought the site with a 200-year-old cottage that had been derelict 300 years. 30 years. It had been derelict for 30 years and was basically knackered, as we say in Yorkshire, and replaced it with that, which is a passive house. It's the first passive house to be registered in the Leeds region. And I'm sure you probably know something about passive house. If you want to live in one of those, you cannot buy a passive house. They are just not on the market. They're either social housing built by local authorities or housing associations or self-builders like me. So I decided the only way to do it was actually to build one. And what I did was I took the fabric first approach, so it's top standards of insulation, so the walls are 3 foot thick, there's stone on the outside because that was part of the planning, and block on the inside, and inside that 3 foot it's all insulation. It's got triple glazed windows, it's airtight, it's got a mechanical heat ventilation and recovery system, so the air moves around on pipe. It's airtight, of course, so you've got to move the air around somehow or other, and the stale air from the bathrooms and the kitchen and so on goes through a heat exchanger and heats up the fresh cold air that's coming in, which is 90% efficient. There's the insulation, as you can see, going in there, and that was all. I've never seen so much insulation in my life. Arctic lorries of insulation went into that house, but that's the fabric first approach. It's got no fossil fuels at all, there is no gas in the village, but that's an Mitsubishi EcoDan air source heat pump, 4 kilowatt, 5 kilowatt heat pump that provides the heating. That's the utility room, so there's the MHVR system on the right, and there's the heat store on the left. I've got 5 kilowatts of solar. They wouldn't let me put it on the roof because it's in green belt, so they're on racks in the garden, as you can see there. 5 kilowatts, 20 panels. And the way it works is, if it's daylight and it's generated electricity, if you put the Hoover on in the house, the electricity goes straight to the appliance. Your meter doesn't go around, so it's not costing you anything. If there's no appliance on the house, I've got a Tesla Powerwall 2 battery in the garage, 13.5 kilowatt hour battery. The battery charges up. If the battery's fully charged, it goes to the heat store, which is a 300 litre tank. So there's an immersion on the tank, which heats up the water, and if the water's at 80 degrees, it then goes into the grid. So effectively, it's a no-bills house. It costs me nothing to live there, because the passive house itself, the fabric first approach, means you only have the heating on for about 6 to 8 weeks a year. So if I go home now and I open the front door, it's 18 degrees in the house. If it doesn't go below -5 outside, it will not go below 18 degrees inside because it's so well insulated.
What does the cost of work say?
Well, inevitably, you're talking about 5 to 10% more than doing an ordinary house. So essentially, it's not as much as you think in actual fact. So, let's move on then. Effectively, I want to talk about renewable energy now. There's many ways in which our local authority can address renewable energy in the operation of its functions. And I'm sure you would know what these are. These are the main technologies. Solar PV, we heard about solar thermal earlier as well. That's, of course, PV is generating electricity, solar thermal is heating water. Wind energy, hydropower, anaerobic digestion, wave and tidal, deep geothermal. And there's examples around the look on most of those. So I was the architect of the first local authority owned solar farm, that was in Cornwall, 5 megawatt solar farm. Bristol City Council had the first civic wind farm, onshore wind farm. Derby City Council's got a huge hydropower plant that's on the weir just in front of the council house, and it's piped into there. They use all the energy to run the council offices. Anaerobic digestion, Severn Trent Water have an AD plant and a sewage farm that uses crops to again take the methane off and generate electricity. I did some work recently on the Swansea Bay Tidal Lagoon. That's a very interesting project that's on hold at the moment. And deep geothermal, of course, is about drilling down 5 kilometres below the Earth's surface, taking up steam, using that to run a turbine. But what about examples? Let's look at some examples. I've got 3 things. First is the local authority, second is the business, and third is individuals. So for a local authority, my example is Cambridge City Council. I'm doing a job there at the moment, and it wants to embark on a whole range of projects, and we chose small, medium and large projects for it to deal with. The small ones, it's already got 5 leisure centres, they've already got 50 kilowatts of solar on their roof, but they could have fitted 250 kilowatts on each roof. They put 50 on because that was the fit band. Well, the feed-in time's gone now, so it's irrelevant. So the simple thing is, put another 200 kilowatts on each of those 5 leisure centres, take you 3 months, and it's done. The medium project was in relation to council-owned commercial properties. So you own business districts that have got buildings in that you are the freeholder in, but you don't occupy those buildings. Businesses do, and putting solar on those and offering to sell the electricity at a discounted rate to the tenants under what's called a power purchase agreement, a PPA, is very much where the market's going. So that's an example of how Cambridge could do that. And the large project, and we heard about this morning as well, is to put solar PV on the council houses. So it owns 8,000 council houses. On average, you can get 2 kilowatts on each council house roof, which is 16 megawatts of renewable energy. So in other words, the same as 3 commercial-sized solar farms on an asset that they already own, and effectively can put it on there. And there's ways now, which I won't go into, of trading that electricity that will give you a very handsome return. But what about local businesses? Well, I suppose solar PV is there too. They're on the roof of the office, factory, shop, warehouse. Business case very good. If you're paying 10% for your electricity, then I guarantee you that solar will work on your building today. And that's something I said to Tom afterwards. I didn't think he was right on this morning. He said, oh, it takes 10s and 20s. No, it doesn't. It doesn't. Because for every unit of electricity that you're generating yourself, you're saving 10 pence of real money. And so the business cases I'm doing at the moment, which we prepare as part of our work, are giving returns in the region of 8 to 10%. So it's well worth doing now. But of course, a lot of people don't follow that. And one of the reasons is this. It is a little fact, isn't it? It always makes me laugh. If I said to you, how much did you pay for the last litre of petrol that you put in your car? I bet you most of you who've got a petrol car could actually tell me what that is. If I said to you, how much pence per kilowatt hour do you pay for your electricity? I bet you there's not more than half a dozen people in the room who could tell me what it is. So effectively, we need more awareness of how it all works. What about an individual householder then? Lots of options there too. Solar on the roof or in the garden, as I've shown on my house. Air source or ground source heat pump for heating, totally fossil fuel-less. Improved glazing or insulation, all of it save your money, save using energy, and energy prices keep on rising. So what about some key issues then? There's quite a few of those. If a council wants to pursue the renewable energy theme, number of key issues. One is planning consent. I know it's ironic, isn't it? Quite often they are the planning authority, but as I found out with Leeds City Council, thinking that one part talks to the other part actually isn't always something that happens. So, and you, of course, here you have the North Wessex area of outstanding natural beauty, which adds a bit of complexity to it as well. In Leeds, it was the green belt, and if I had one note of advice to you, if I was building another house, I would not build it in the green belt, because it took me about 18 months longer than it would otherwise have done. The second one's grid connection. Obviously, if you have solar on your house, you use it actually in the house, so you don't need a grid connection for that. But if you have a solar farm or a big renewable energy installation that's making power, then yes, you have to get it in the grid, and distribution network operators are the people who run the distribution network. They love their jargon. Even I can't understand them, and they're not very easy to deal with, but nonetheless, you've got to wade through that treacle to get that sorted out. And the last one, you need land or buildings. I talk about council housing. They haven't got any council housing here. It's been transferred. So if you want to build a solar farm, you need land, 25 acres or whatever, to put it on. So these are all key issues that you have to think about. Right, let's move on to carbon offsetting. Talk to Tom about this as well this morning, because he gave you one example of carbon offsetting. There's 4 different ways you can do carbon offsetting. And frankly, his is the worst. That's let's plant a tree in Namibia, and everyone says, well, it's cheap really, isn't it? And I understand where they're coming from. But essentially the first point, before I tell you what the other 3 are, the first point is the crucial point. This is not about saying, how much electricity do we use? How do we offset it? The starting point is to get the emissions down. That's the starting point. You've got to start in the right place. Replacing fossil fuel vehicles with electric or hydrogen, replacing heating with renewable heating, generating your own electricity where you can. That's the starting point. And the point about offsetting is it's to get you to the residual emissions that you can't get rid of. And as I explained earlier, that's the principle of net zero carbon as the target rather than zero carbon. So to go back to my house, just to try and make it as simple as I can, even though it's a passive house, and even though it's got all that kit and all the rest of it, it is not a net zero carbon house. I'm sorry, I beg your pardon. It's not a zero carbon house, because it still has some emissions, and those are in the night, in the winter, when there's no solar and the battery's flat. So I'm still using grid electricity then, but I offset it by offsetting against it the air source heat pump and the solar panels and so on. So you've got your emissions as low as you possibly can. 4 ways of offsetting. One, we've heard about doing something abroad. I'll say nothing further about that. The second one is undertaking your own energy projects here in West Berkshire. Come back to that one in a moment. Third one, tree planting. Of course, you could do forestation or reforestation in the UK, in your own area. Some authorities are looking at that. You could even get the Woodland Trust to pay for the trees a lot of the time. And the fourth one is what we call sequestration. And you've probably heard of carbon capture and storage, or CCUS it is now, carbon capture and usage storage. And I did some work recently in Yorkshire for East Riding, and that's next to Drax. And Drax are one of the leading authorities on CCUS, so they're trying to use a pipeline that goes through East Riding out into the North Sea, where they're going to save the carbon that they take from the burning of fossil fuels. So they're going to try and get involved in that. I don't like that one because it's still about burning fossil fuels, and that's not really where we're trying to get to. So let's go back to the second one, undertaking your own energy project. And here there's some tactics in play. So let's just go through those. If we're in the council offices down the road and they have solar PV on the roof, that doesn't actually count towards their towards their carbon footprint. The reason is it's netted off. So in other words, if they would have used 2,000 kilowatt hours in that building, but because they've got solar power, they only use 1,000 kilowatt hours, it's already been taken into account. You can't double count it, okay? That's the starting point. So effectively, if I take that leisure centre in Lancaster, Saltaire Leisure Centre, amazing example this, one leisure centre in Lancaster City Council consumes a full 25% of all the council's energy bill, just that one building. So I'm doing a job for them at the moment to put 1 megawatt of solar panels on land next door, pipe it into the leisure centre, make the leisure centre energy self-sufficient. Right, so in that case, they've used hardly any energy at all, and then so they've taken into account that benefit. But if you develop a solar farm and it's out in the country and the electricity goes into the grid, then effectively, then you can take the carbon benefit from the solar power you have generated and you can deduct it from your carbon footprint as a local authority. Now, going back to Lancaster again, they've got a former landfill site, huge site, 100 acres, which was a tip that the county council leased for 90 odd years, and they want to put 25 megawatts of solar on that. That's a £20 million investment. But it will make so much electricity that it will wipe out the council's carbon footprint in its entirety. So, and that's one way of doing it. And then, of course, if you talk about the commercial buildings, again, even though the council owns the commercial buildings, because it doesn't occupy them, it's not in command of the bill or the meter point, then effectively, if you put solar panels on those and charge the tenant for the electricity, again, you can offset that off your carbon footprint. And you can as well with the housing example. And the reason for that is that housing doesn't count against your carbon footprint, and the reason it doesn't count, social housing is because you don't occupy the property and you're not in control of the energy use. So by definition, it's not your footprint, it's whoever lives in the house's footprint. So again, if you put solar on the roof there, then you can count the carbon benefit and it will go against your own carbon footprint as a local authority. And the biggest scheme I've worked on was Wrexham in North Wales, where we put solar PV on 3,000 council houses, 5 megawatts of solar, and effectively that project was when feed-in tariff still existed, but essentially it will make the council in the region of £20 to £25 million tax-free, because it was a brilliant scheme whereby they're generating electricity and effectively then selling it. So what I'm finding in my work around the country is quite a lot of local authorities are addressing climate change, which is effectively about emissions, not energy, but they're addressing it through the prism of energy, because energy is one of the simplest things you can do to actually try and make it work. But essentially, it is important when you're looking at all that, and the council's going to be getting into this when it's working out the carbon footprint, to know what's counted in the carbon footprint and what isn't. So to give you an example of that, scope 1 emissions, as they're called, is direct emissions. That's your own vehicle that you use for your services. Scope 2 emissions is electricity you use in your buildings. Again, that's counted. Scope 3 is what they call indirect emissions. Only a few of those are counted. Most Scope 3 emissions aren't counted. So to give you an example, procurement. So the council buys loads of stuff, both goods and services. If we take goods, if they buy some goods and those goods come from the other side of the world, we don't work out what the carbon footprint was of the transport, either the embedded carbon in the goods themselves or the mode of transport that got them to the UK. And the reason we don't do that is it's too hard to measure. Because it's too hard to measure, we can't measure it, and what we can't measure isn't in the carbon footprint. So it's not actually the full 100% in the carbon footprint to start with. And it's the same with contracted out services, where somebody else actually performs the service on your behalf. So we have to understand what's actually in it and how we address it. And of course, what is happening is, because we're looking at this very carefully now, we're finding that we are expanding to get more into the carbon footprint by putting in place new arrangements to measure and new arrangements to offset. Okay, a couple of conclusions then. Everyone can contribute to the climate emergency here at every level. We are all individuals, householders, workers, and so on, and we've all got something to offer. It's not just the local authorities' role to take action, and I did say earlier on, the council doesn't even have a legal duty on this. The legal duty under the Climate Change Act 2008 is with the Secretary of State. It's a central government function. So any council that declares a climate emergency is doing it voluntarily, and that's quite an important point. We all need to be thinking carefully about what needs to be done. For the council, it's in the process of leading to a new environmental policy and a new way of working. My advice to local authorities is this: you've got to try and weave climate change into the DNA of the authority. That means every single decision that the council takes, it thinks about what the impact is on the environment and on climate change, and it balances those out. But a word for the activists: you can't do everything. Some things you have to say, we'll take a balance, but politicians are elected to make decisions. If you want a new refuse flater to collect your refuse, it's 150,000 for a diesel one, it's 360,000 for a hydrogen one. I know lots of authorities said, we can't justify that cost this time, it'll last 4 years, we'll have another look next time. May not agree with that, but that's local democracy, that's how it works. And the other thing, I wrote a blog recently, because Local Government Chronicle did an article and it said, are we with Greta Thunberg? And I wrote this blog and said, I've got the answer to that. It isn't maybe the one you think. The answer's no. And it's all sharp in taking a breath. What do you mean by that? Well, Greta Thunberg is a single-purpose activist. Her job is to thump the table and say, we need action, and we need it now. West Berkshire District Council is a public authority that has legal and fiscal duties to provide public services. Even if it wanted to spend all the money on climate change, it can't legally do it. So we have to be realistic about what it is we're setting as our expectations. There's no reason why we can't be ambitious. Of course we can be ambitious. There's no reason why you can't set a target that's not achievable today. I've no problem with that. There's two great examples of that. One is Google. Google, when it started, we all know Google now, absolute well-known name. When it started, its aim was to put all the world's information in one place. It was impossible back then. Another one was iPod. Apple's iPod. Their aim at the time was to have all your music collection in your pocket. When they brought it up, when they started doing it and working on it the first time, we all had Sony Walkmans. Do you remember that? Where you put the tape in and clicked it and pressed the button. It was rubbish. So I don't have a problem with a target that's not achievable at the moment, as long as we're clear it's not achievable and why, and saying it is aspirational and this is what we're going to work towards. But I think it's foolhardy to make promises about where you're going to get to. And I work with a large number of local authorities across the country, and some of those authorities have made a pledge that they will become net zero carbon by 2030, and they don't know where they're starting from. They don't know how they're going to get there, they don't know whether they can get there, and they don't know how much it's going to cost. Now you give me another example of public administration where councils will pass a motion like that without knowing these things. So we are getting there, people want to do it, and we are seeing higher ambition, but we have to be realistic about what's possible. So that's a local authority, get it into the DNA. It's easy to say, not so easy to do. And for businesses, it might be investment in new technology, upgrades to energy efficiency in buildings, it might be replacing vehicles with EVs. Now, I wanted to mention my EV, the last piece of my jigsaw. I came down from Leeds today in my EV. I parked in the Kenning Centre, plugged it into the charger, walked up here, I walked back, and I've got enough juice to get home to Leeds. I've got the Hyundai 65 kilowatt battery, 300-mile range. So, that's the fourth electric car being electric, and 70,000 miles of electric motoring since 2011. Yes, I've got the scars on my back. I have been sitting on the side of the road. I have gripped the wheel with veins sticking out of my neck. Am I going to get there or not? I've sat there in a duffel coat with a blanket over my leg and a bobble hat on, and a Range Rover stops next to me at the lights and looks down and thinks, what is going on in that car? Because I can't turn the heater on because I'm not going to make it. I understand all that, but the technology is getting there now, and it's completely different to those old days. It's worth looking at.
Right, I'm going to bring up time for one question because people are starting to filter in. I have a gentleman down here at the front.
Can I get a microphone? Please still have I just want to push back a bit.
Stand up to
Yes,
voice
the
control.
mic will be around.
Up, microphone.
Thanks. I just want to push back a bit on the idea that just because scope 3 is hard to measure, we shouldn't do it, it shouldn't count. I think quite the opposite. Because it's hard to measure, we estimate it, we take the highest estimate, and we then count all of them going forwards, because that encourages much more of the initial reduction that you were talking about that is so important there. If we don't know, getting a new computer is a lot more expensive carbon-wise than just getting a new hard drive. But if we don't measure either of them, we'll just keep getting a new computer when we should just be getting a new hard drive.
I'm not defending it, I'm just saying what it is. And I think I think the realism point is that the private sector hasn't worked out how to deal with scope 3 either, so we should be working across the board with all other partners to try and work out how we do. And one of the points I was making was, a lot of people don't know that if you don't measure it, it doesn't go in. It doesn't mean it doesn't exist, it just means it's not in the carbon footprint. So if we want to make a lasting change, we have to look at every aspect and do something about it. So, yeah, next time.
We actually got time for one more question. Not everyone's come back in. Ladies there.
Thank you very much. We talk about the carbon footprint and in terms of the way different local authorities actually deal with this. Surely they're actually creating an asset. So my question to you is, how can this asset be calibrated on their balance sheet? Because this would make it much easier for us to compare different local authorities.
Well, no, you're absolutely right. You effectively can't compare them at the moment. And the reason for that is because the climate declarations are voluntary, and because they're all different and have different timelines, you can't really compare. And some also, because it's voluntary, again, you see, you can define what carbon footprint is in your definition. So I'll give you an example. I was saying to somebody earlier on, and I'm not having a go. I support local authorities, and I've worked in it all my career. But if you take the example of Manchester City Council, which is one of the top authorities in the country, probably one of the top 7 or 8 in terms of the green agenda, doing loads and loads of things. It's got a target of net zero carbon by 2038, and I guarantee you it will actually get there. But it hasn't counted the airport. Manchester International Airport is 1, owned by the council, and 2, it's in its area, but it has excluded it from its carbon footprint. It said, for us, the definition of carbon footprint is the built environment, buildings, transport, and so on. So sadly, you can't. There are BEIS guidelines, governmental guidelines, about what composition goes into it for carbon reporting, but the government abolished all that a while ago, so a lot of authorities don't have the people to do that anymore, but that will come back now, I think, under these climate emergency declarations. But you'd have to be, it'd take a lot of research and a good deal of knowledge to actually compare a banana with a banana.
Excellent. Thanks very much, Stephen. I think comparing bananas with bananas is an excellent way to end that. So we all say thank you very much to Stephen.